The metallic tap of a sickle claw on a steel floor, the breathy fog on a window pane, the chilling realization that you are not being hunted by a beast, but outsmarted by a monster. The Velociraptor of cinema is an indelible icon of intelligent terror. But how does this 6-foot-tall, hyper-intelligent, clever girl stand up against the fossil evidence? Now, let's roll the film, open the fossil record, and begin our investigation. The sequence is a masterclass in suspense, a perfect distillation of the film's narrative thesis: nature, resurrected by human arrogance, is smarter, faster, and infinitely more dangerous than we can comprehend. Inside the industrial kitchen of Jurassic Park, the mise-en-scène is cold, sterile, and metallic, a world of human order about to be shattered by primal chaos. The camera stays low, often at the eye level of the child protagonists, amplifying their vulnerability. The sound design is spare and terrifyingly precise. We don't hear a monstrous roar, we hear the unnerving clicks, hisses, and the sharp, percussive report of that sickle-shaped claw. This is the work of a thinking predator. The film's raptors don't just attack, they probe defenses. They coordinate, they set traps. They are not animals, they are antagonists, possessing a narrative intelligence that makes them the true villains of the story. This cinematic predator was christened with a name that is, in itself, a stroke of branding genius: Velociraptor. Swift Caesar! It's lean, menacing, and perfectly suited to the creature on screen. And for an entire generation, this depiction became paleontological fact. The 6-foot-tall, scaly, pack-hunting super predator was the Velociraptor. But this powerful piece of cinematic myth-making, while artistically brilliant, creates a fascinating schism between popular perception and scientific reality. The creature that terrorized audiences around the globe was indeed based on a real fossil discovery, but it was not Velociraptor. To find the true origin of this movie monster, we must look not to the Gobi Desert of Mongolia, but to the Badlands of Montana, and to a pivotal moment in the history of paleontology. In the late 1960s, the paleontologist John Ostrom of Yale University was in the process of upending a century of dogma. Dinosaurs, for the longest time, were perceived as languid, cold-blooded, dim-witted reptiles destined for extinction, but the fossils Ostrom unearthed from the Cloverleaf Formation told a different story. He had found a medium-sized theropod, but one with a radical anatomy. It had a stiffened, dynamic tail that would have acted as a perfect counterbalance for agile movements. Its limbs were long and gracile, built for speed, and most strikingly, on the second toe of each foot. It possessed a huge, sickle-shaped claw, held aloft like a switchblade. This was no swamp-dwelling lizard. This was a predator built for a dynamic, high-performance life. Ostrom named it Deinonychus antiropus, the terrible claw. His subsequent analysis argued that Deinonychus was an active, agile, and likely warm-blooded predator, perhaps even a pack hunter. This was the spark that ignited what we now call the dinosaur renaissance, a complete paradigm shift that reimagined dinosaurs as the successful, sophisticated, and fascinating animals they were. This revolutionary image of a new, intelligent, and athletic dinosaur is precisely what captured the imagination of author Michael Crichton. When writing the novel Jurassic Park, he used Ostrom's Deinonychus as the biological blueprint for his antagonists. However, he found the name Velociraptor to be more dramatic, more evocative. His decision was bolstered by the work of the influential, if controversial, paleontologist Gregory S. Paul, who in his 1988 book Predatory Dinosaurs of the World temporarily reclassified Deinonychus as a species of Velociraptor. While this classification was not widely accepted and was later abandoned, it provided the crucial pseudo-scientific justification at the time of the film's production. The filmmakers, therefore, made a conscious choice. They took the body of Deinonychus and gave it the name of Velociraptor. It was an act of cinematic alchemy, forging a single, unforgettable icon from two separate paleontological realities, creating a myth so powerful it would overshadow the very science that inspired it. To find the animal behind the name, Our investigation must leave the controlled environment of the film studio and venture into a landscape far more ancient and formidable, the Gobi Desert of Mongolia. It was here, in 1923, under the blazing sun, at a place nicknamed the Flaming Cliffs, that an expedition from the American Museum of Natural History, led by the charismatic adventurer Roy Chapman Andrews, made a discovery that would echo for a century. While searching for the origins of humanity, expedition paleontologist Peter Kaizen unearthed the fossil of a small, carnivorous dinosaur. It was specimen IGM 125, a crushed but beautifully preserved skull, jaw, and, most tellingly, one of those distinctively large, sickle-shaped foot claws. The following year, Henry Fairfield Osborn, the museum president, officially named it Velociraptor mongoliensis, the swift Caesar from Mongolia. This is our holotype, the definitive specimen against which all subsequent finds are measured, and when we place this fossil reality alongside the cinematic myth, the first and most glaring discrepancy is one of scale. The on-screen raptor stands 6 feet tall, a human-sized terror that can meet its prey at eye level. The biomechanics implied by its size suggest a predator capable of tackling large game, but the fossil record tells a profoundly different story. When we analyze the holotype and other complete skeletons of Velociraptor, the data is unequivocal. This was not a 6-foot titan. The adult animal stood roughly half a meter tall at the hip, about the height of a turkey. Its total length, from snout to the tip of its long, stiff tail, was approximately 2 meters, with more than half of that being the tail. Its weight was likely in the range of 15 to 20 kilograms, comparable to a modern coyote or a large wildcat. To put this in perspective, the cinematic raptor could look you in the eye. The real Velociraptor would have barely reached your knee. This was not a monstrous giant, but a lightweight, compact, and exquisitely adapted predator. Its reputation for ferocity, however, is not without merit. We have stunning fossil evidence for its predatory capabilities in the form of the famous fighting dinosaur specimen. This remarkable fossil block preserves a velociraptor locked in mortal combat with a protoceratops, a sheep-sized herbivore. The velociraptor has its lethal sickle claw embedded in the neck of the protoceratops, while the herbivore has clamped down on the predator's arm with its powerful beacon. They were buried together in a collapsing sand dune, immortalized in the midst of a life-or-death struggle. This confirms that Velociraptor was a bold and formidable hunter, but its prey of choice was not fully grown humans. It was other dinosaurs, roughly its own size. The size difference is dramatic, but the second major revision to the pop culture image is even more visually and biologically profound. The raptors of the cinema are scaly, leathery creatures, their skin reflecting the classic reptilian archetype. For decades, this was the default assumption for most dinosaurs. But as our understanding of the relationship between theropod dinosaurs and modern birds grew, paleontologists strongly suspected that dromaeosaurs like Velociraptor were feathered. This was an inference based on phylogenetic bracketing. If an animal's closest ancestors and descendants have a trait, it likely did too, for years. However, there was no direct smoking gun evidence on a Velociraptor fossil itself. That all changed in 2007. In a paper published in the journal Science, paleontologists Alan Turner, Petr Makovitsky, and Mark Norell announced a game-changing discovery while examining a particularly well-preserved Velociraptor forearm bone, specimen EGM 1000 Ahuthan. They identified a series of small, evenly spaced bumps along the ulna. These were not random pathologies or artifacts of preservation. These were quill knobs. Quill knobs are anatomical anchors, small bony papillae, where the ligaments of large, pennaceous feathers, the kind with a central shaft, and interlocking barbules that form a vein attached directly to the bone. We see these exact same structures in the wing bones of many modern birds, especially strong flyers like vultures or ground dwellers like turkeys. Their presence on the ulna of a velociraptor is irrefutable. Physical proof that this animal possessed well-developed feathers on its arms. forming a wing-like structure. This discovery single-handedly shifted the scientific consensus. The question was no longer if Velociraptor had feathers, but how extensive and complex that plumage was. When we synthesize this data, the animal that emerges from the fossil record is radically different from its cinematic counterpart, and arguably far more wondrous. We must imagine an animal not wrapped in green or gray scales, but in a sophisticated coat of feathers. It would have possessed a full range of feather types, simpler, downy filaments for insulation across its body, and large, complex, veined feathers on its arms and tail. These wings were not capable of powered flight. Velociraptor was far too large, and its arm anatomy wasn't suited for it. Instead, we believe this plumage served a multitude of other functions. The arm feathers could have been used for display, for attracting mates or intimidating rivals. Using patterns and colors we can now only dream of, they would have been essential for brooding, allowing the parent to cover its eggs with a warm, insulating blanket, and they may have even provided an aerodynamic function, used as control surfaces for stability when running at high speed, or to help pin down struggling prey in a behavior known as raptor prey restraint. This is the fossil record's reality, a creature that powerfully blurs the line between dinosaur and bird. It was a nimble, coyote-sized, utterly feathered predator, an intelligent hunter that was less a reptilian monster and more a flightless bird of prey. Armed with the teeth and claws of its deep Mesozoic ancestry, we are left, then, with two distinct identities inhabiting a single name. There is the cinematic Velociraptor, a 6-foot-tall, scaly titan of narrative fiction, a monster brilliantly crafted to tap into our primal fears. And there is the paleontological Velociraptor, a feathered, turkey-sized predator of the Mongolian desert, a creature no less formidable, but whose reality is woven into the intricate tapestry of avian evolution. The question is not which one is correct, but how we reconcile the potent fiction with the evolving science. The film, released in 1993, was a monument to the science of its day. It masterfully translated the core tenets of the dinosaur renaissance onto the screen, killing the cultural image of the sluggish, swamp-bound reptile forever. These were fast, intelligent, and terrifyingly alive creatures, a direct reflection of the scientific revolution John Ostrom had unleashed decades earlier. In this, the film was a triumph of scientific communication. However, the river of discovery is a relentless one. The very same year Jurassic Park was in theaters, the first undisputed non-avian feathered dinosaur, Sinosauropteryx, was unearthed in China, heralding a flood of new fossils that would fundamentally change our vision of the Mesozoics. The science simply outpaced the fiction. The enduring power of that original cinematic myth-making is a testament to its artistic success. The image of the scaly raptor is so deeply seared into our collective consciousness that it has proven remarkably resistant to change. For over 2 decades, as the fossil evidence for feathered dromaeosaurs mounted into an unassailable mountain of proof, popular media has been slow to follow. The subsequent films in the franchise, for example, have famously kept their raptors featherless, a deliberate creative choice that underscores the widening gulf between the scientific consensus and the demands of pop culture continuity. But what if we embrace this scientific evolution not as a correction, but as an opportunity? The feathered dromaeosaur is not a downgrade. It is an upgrade in biological complexity and narrative potential. Imagine a predator that combines the alien intelligence of a corvid or a parrot with the weaponry of a panther. A creature that communicates not just with hisses and barks, but with the rustle and display of its plumage. A hunter that can use its wing-like arms to form a suffocating shroud over its prey. A terrifying behavior we see in eagles and hawks today. This is not a monster born of fantasy, but a plausible predator born of the fossil record. The sleek, reptilian skin of the movie monster is terrifying, but the unfamiliar texture of feathers, a feature we associate with the mundane and the beautiful on a creature of such clear predatory intent, creates a new and perhaps even more profound sense of uncanny dread. It is the known world twisted into a Mesozoic nightmare. The future of paleo cinema lies not in repeating the iconic but outdated designs of the past, but in having the courage to depict these animals in all of their strange, feathered, and scientifically grounded glory. Ultimately, the cinematic raptor and the real Velociraptor are not truly in conflict. They are two different points on a magnificent, looping journey of discovery. A brilliant piece of filmmaking took the science of its time and created an unforgettable icon, and in doing so, inspired countless viewers to look deeper into the fossil record, fueling the very scientific process that would eventually revise it, leaving us with a richer understanding of both the art of storytelling and the breathtaking reality of Earth's ancient life.